Boys and girls are different. They hold their power differently. And they're supposed to. Because you know what? If they didn't, vote markets, we would die. I'm actually very serious about that. If you thought about it, okay, women hold their power individually. We are little dictators. We are closer to Saddam Hussein than we are to Mother Teresa. I mean, no, because you have to think about why this is true. Because if we weren't like that, can you imagine that there would be another generation of 3-year-olds after the first ones? You would be walking along with your little 3-year-old club banging little kid, and at some point in time you just get close to a cliff and you say, I don't need this. Boom! The whole future of the world is laying down at the bottom of this cliff, because who would put up with that? Nobody. Okay, except for us, because we are tough and we are mean and we command attention. We have absolute authority and we don't have to earn it. Okay, the amount of time that it takes for a woman to get to tell everybody in this room what to do is the amount of time it takes me to lower my voice, lower my eyes, and do our tears. And you know it. And you know that if you don't do what this tiny little white woman says, you're dead. So, now men have a whole different thing going on. Men, now people always say, they would tell you things like, they'll say, oh, you know, women are the nice ones, and, you know, they're community oriented, they know how to get along with people. And I'm just looking at them going, what women are you talking about? I haven't met them. I didn't bear any. I have 2 daughters and 1 son. I didn't. And then other friends like, I said, who are you talking about? I can't understand. And then I realized they're talking about men. No, seriously, what men are really cool. What they do, these guys know how to work in groups. They are not individuals. These are people that dress the same. They're monosyllabic. If they're stressed, sometimes they can go on and on, but usually means nothing. They're as individuals, they're really not all that. However, however, put them together. They leave their little egos at the door. So when they're tussling around to figure out who's on top of who's bottom, but they leave after they've figured out who's on top and what kind of order they're in, and who's the captain, and who's the vice president of toilet paper, and who's the senior officer in charge of whatever. As soon as everybody's figured out where they are not going to let that lowest man on the totem pole fall off that ladder. Ooh, I just missed my metaphors. But they're not going to let that guy fall off the ladder. They will keep him up. If they're nice, maybe they'll let him get up a little higher. But that's what they do. They are amazing. Hello. They are amazing. These are people that figured out how to split an atom. They figured out how to go to the moon. Think about that. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a group of women getting together and agreeing on all the complicated things you need to put together in order to send people to the moon without killing each other? Because who's going to argue with a woman who can tame a 3-year-old? It doesn't work. So like I said, there are reasons for this. So what men do is they create systems. They create these lovely, lovely systems, and then they all figure out where they fall in those systems, and then they call them work. So then they go out and do that. We are over here commanding our small universe, or however big it is, and sometimes we decide to go into their universe and put our hands up on our hips and, you know, start getting, sometimes it doesn't work out too well. That creates problems, but that's life, and these guys will have to figure out how to deal with that one of these days. So, yeah, seriously, because we still have to bring home some bacon.
And we're not going away.
Going away, okay? So it makes kind of a scary, unsubtle situation. And so, you know, 40 years ago or so, you know, feminism arrives and things are getting scary and weird again. I do not understand that, but things are getting scary and weird again. So the feminist risings are coming up again, but they're saying the exact same things they were saying 40 years ago. And they're still not, they might have been truer then, but they're not that true now. We're pretty mixed up, and we're pretty all in there, and we're pretty all together. And so it's about time we figured out who the hell we're talking about. Okay? You know, it's like, this is a guy, these guys take 30 years to be able to finally tell somebody what to do. They have to earn it. And the problem is that they're so fixed on being able, they really, really want to be able to do what we do, but they can't because it's not possible, but for them to do that. So they start working themselves up the ladder, they start looking for the brass ring, they keep building stuff, and the problem with the guys is they keep building stuff, and they keep building it, and they keep wanting to get higher and higher until things break. Things are kind of breaking a little bit right now. So, I think it's time that we start asking questions. It's time we start looking at each other a little bit differently. It's time that we stop picking on the individual guy that we know. Leave these guys alone and start focusing like radar on some of these systems and structures that keep getting bigger and bigger and meaner and more powerful until they're taking over the world, and the most powerful people in the world are getting left a little, we have an Achilles heel, you know, I haven't mentioned that, you know, because who the hell wants to think about that? So we have an Achilles heel, it is isolation and poverty. Those two things will keep us running in circles to make sure that our small little army of people don't die. And that, you know, everybody's going to, in our community, you know, whoever that we're responsible for, or who we can help, because it's a good thing for us to do, not because, you know. So, you make that more and more and more and more difficult, and that's going to lock us all up. That's going to keep us busy enough to keep us quiet. So, we've got to start looking up. Yeah, maybe we're isolated, and maybe we're poor, and maybe we're not. Maybe we're so damn busy because we're trying to make it. But maybe it's time to start looking up and start figuring out. Again, leave the small fights for small minds. You know, it's like, leave these guys alone. When somebody, you know, compliments you on that you look nice, just say thank you. Don't tell them that why are you paying attention to what I look like? Why don't you understand my mind? And he's going, I don't know. I don't know what your mind looks like. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, so, you know, it just gets confused. He falls apart. He gets mad. He goes to work. So, that's the kind of feminism that I'm talking for now. So what I'm doing is I'm decided. I mean, I didn't think about this until I talked to people on the bus. I talk to people. Started talking when I was 6 months old, so I talk to people all the time. I run my stuff by people all the time. I get very, very funny and very interesting reactions from people all the time. And people say, well, why don't you write a book? And I say, because it's not time. Because nobody's been in a position to be feeling like they need to be listening. Well, I'm finding enough people that are getting irritated enough to start listening. I'm starting to hear words run around like war on women and just plain, yeah, so it's time. So it's time to start writing a book. And because some of the stuff that I think about and some of the stuff I talk about gets complicated and I want men to read the book too, and it can't get too complicated. So, well, I mean, I'm not really being rude here, but I've got a brother and a son that got IQs of 160, 400. I mean, these guys, they're real smart guys around. And they will tell you, why are women so complicated? Why don't you just tell us what you want? We will do it and get on with our business. You know, so back up. So I want men to read this book too. So it's a series. It's going to be a series of essays. You can give me a piece, I'll write on it. Once you've figured out and digested that piece and it makes sense, you go on to the next one. I'll try and organize them in such a way that it makes sense. But they're going to be bite-sized. Things that you can share. By the time you get to the end of this thing, there'll be things that you can do. How to cause trouble and incite a riot. So